Hello there, fellow woers. This is Landro for LandroeGaming, bringing you some more PvP footage. I decided to queue up with some friends one night. They asked me if I want to do some healing in a few BGs, so we went and had a couple of rounds. And this is one of the ones that we done. This is the Battle for Guineas. I love going in BGs with a few friends, especially ones that know what you're capable of and how you play, and are good at peeling and stuff like that. So it was really good fun. We had a great couple of hours doing some BGs. I do like the sort of 10-man kind of type PvP environments, and Battle for Guineas is one of my favourites. A few tactics seem to work quite well, but we just sort of went in and just wanted to have some fun and just get involved in some conflict, really. So that's pretty much what this was about. It's worth mentioning that Mr. Pandaria is almost upon us, and I'm quite excited for that. We get the first patch is incoming where the talents will change. That will make PvPing and PvE very, very interesting. It's going to be a new learning curve for pretty much all classes. There's quite substantial changes right across the board. There's some really exciting ones for Priest, and I've always thought that they needed some more healing therapeutic type spells, especially Disc. Obviously Disc is primarily about absorbs, but it does help that you have the healing therapeutic and utility to be of more use in raids. So I'm quite keen to see just how these will pan out, especially the 90 talents such as Halo and Cascade. Obviously they're not coming in the upcoming patch, but it means we get about 4 or 5 weeks to learn the basic class mechanic changes before we get into Mr. Pandaria. Some of the interesting things in PvP for Disc are mostly revolve around enable us to be freer to cast more spells. I'm not sure how PvP is going to pan out in MoP. Judging by the early sort of indications, it's still going to be a lot of gank fest kind of stuff going out there, even though a lot of things are changing. I've been watching some arena where people can go from 100% to no HP in very, very short space of time, especially some of the healing classes that I was looking at. But the problem with Disc in previous content was we required lots of peeling, because if we get chained we get locked down very easily, and some of that does seem to be getting addressed with the new Psychic Fiend and all those kind of things that are available, as well as you get a variant of the Vanish spell, which kind of or it's more akin to the priest to the mage invisible spell, I should say, really, where you kind of like go invisible and you leave a kind of like mirror image of yourself there, which your enemies will see. And for 6 seconds you become kind of invisible, which is quite good. It will enable you to get a bit more space between you and the melee classes. Most melee classes are getting a lot of movement speed increases, so interestingly the benefits that are hitting us this upcoming patch and for Mr. Pandaria will also come back at us via other class changes to our opponents that will enable them to stay on you in different ways. But it's gonna be a balancing act. I remember at the start of Cataclysm when Disc Priest was in a very sorry state, when the shields were absorbing sort of 2-3k and we got hardly any mana, and even dungeons were a nightmare. Hopefully we don't get that kind of situation going on, but it would be good if we got some of the things with Disc Priest address. I also had it's worth mentioning, I had a bit of fun recently with Shadow on the beta and on the PTR, and there are some wonderful changes to Shadow. The mechanics of Shadow, the problems for the randomness of orbs, okay, that was fixed to a certain degree with the 4 set of the latest tier set of gear, but there are some wonderful workarounds for that now, so that it doesn't necessarily revolve around your gear. Devouring Plague will consume your shadow orbs, and Mind Blast will create your shadow orbs, so you have an actual direct spell that creates and consumes, so you can control your shadow orbs much more freely. I think Shadow of Death as well, when you use sub 25%, will create an orb, so there's lots of variants for that kind of how you can work around the orb creation, because you'll be using Devouring Plague basically, from what I understand, once you get free orbs. So it'll be you'll be creating more orbs on the kill phase, on the sub 25% phase. You'll be using more orbs. You'll be able to use more orbs. So that was fantastic, and some of the other additions as well. Mindbender, which looked pretty cool, and some of the quirky little glyphs there. The glyphs of companion, which puts your companion as a shadow form companion, which is pretty cool. And there's some other glyphs, ones such as Archangel glyphs, which give you the Archangel wings when you use, I think it's Devouring Plague. And there's another one which turns your shadow orbs into shadowy ravens. There was lots of things that looked really cool for Shadow. And with flipping back to disc, obviously I'm primarily a disc priest. There's some interesting things there as well. Holy Fire, there's a glyph which makes Holy Fire an instant cast spell, which is quite fun. There's another glyph which means you can use penance whilst moving. So those two glyphs combined will help greatly with the biggest problem, or one of the bigger problems that disc had in PvE, but it's also relevant in PvP, and that was the mobility. How much the lack of mobility spells, or spells we could cast whilst mobile. We're pretty much limited to shielding, which of course gives weakened souls, so it's a limited effect there. We have Renew, which of course not the most economical spell as a disc priest. We have Prayer of Mending. Again, the first charge is obviously good, but thereafter, so the fact that we can then penance and Holy Fire on the move with them glyphs will be really interesting. So I'm looking forward to working those into my healing arsenal. And there was also another spell, the name eludes me at the moment, but it's a mana returning spell, which is an offensive spell. So we have kind of 3 offensive spells. So the Atonement spec kind of adds an extra element to that, where you get your Holy Fire, your smiting for the healing, and you get the mana returning element, which is kind of more synonymous with Resto Shamans from the last content, where you had Lightning Bolt to return your mana. So it'll be interesting to see how these things, sort of pan out, and whether the nerf bats come, or whether the buffs come, or what other classes are doing, and it's going to be really interesting. So this comes in this Wednesday's patch in the EU realms. I think it will be Tuesday in the US, and then I think it's like 4 or 5 weeks thereafter, and we get MoP, and we get to level to 90, and we get to see all the new exciting stuff that comes with Mr. Pandaria. So back to the PvP. As you can see, we face rolled the first one pretty quickly. I'm not going to lie, when you go into Battlegrounds with 2 or 3 people who are communicating, I wasn't on Vent actually, but the guys I went in with I think they were on Mumble. But it does give your team a huge advantage. Now, I'm not saying that that's the difference between us winning and losing, because inevitably, certainly in the last set of BGs I've been queuing in, I was constantly coming up against teams of 4, 5, 6 from the same realm as opposition. I'm guessing it's not just me, or not just our team that were benefiting from having multiple people on our team. But yeah, it makes a huge difference when you have people who can sort of call out targets. I think that's the biggest thing, especially if there's heated about, or can call out which base to assault and those kind of things. I love Lumber Mill as a starting point, even though Blacksmith is kind of traditionally the point we should go and secure. But I do like levitating down. I saw there was a rogue or a hunter about here, and I thought I'd be a hero. I actually get a ninja flag with a little bit of help from a DK friend who comes down towards the end, but it didn't last very long, because even as I was capping and looking back, I see the rogue hero arriving over the bridge. And it was just a matter of whether I could get the cap before I got hit, and before I knew it, there was rogues, and there was hunters, and there was mages and warlocks, and fire mages, and I think there was all kinds of stuff hitting me here. I didn't last very long, even though I used a few cooldowns to try and stay alive. I stupidly didn't use my trinket. Worth mentioning, I got asked to go and heal these BGs, and had my UI set up for Shadow. I've been trying out Shadow in PvE. I was having a lot of fun, I must admit. But it's not until I go back into these BGs that I notice all my keybinds are in the wrong place, and my freedom wasn't there, and all that kind of stuff. So it meant I was a little bit slow on the reactions here. As I've said in other videos, I don't claim to be a pro PvPer. I can heal, and I just sort of help my friends out. They're pretty good at what they do, and I just really do this for fun. I have so much fun in PvP with friends. I love healing. It's great to be the saviour of your friends, to keep them up, to heal them, to be the one that's the difference between the capture and that. So yeah, and I could keep talking really for the next sort of 10 minutes. This video is 20 minutes long. What I'll do is I'll put some music on now. I'm going to do a few more PvP videos in the coming weeks, so if you keep checking back to my channel, You might see some other stuff. I might do some shadow. It sort of depends how I'm feeling, whether I can be bothered to respec and reglyph and everything again. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Landro out.